Hi, Jasmine here. Another video on Sober and Fabulous, my YouTube channel. If you'd like, feel free to subscribe. My words are getting the best of me. And I'm here to talk to you today about pain, and because I'm going through some pain, physical pain right now, and also about ruminating thoughts. And I saw a correlation when I started to think about it. So what's interesting to me about pain, physical pain, is that my kitty says hello. That is a way to actually stop ruminating thoughts because you become so focused on that pain. So I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is nerve pain throughout my body, and I also have TMJ, and I had a flare up for the first time yesterday into today, and excruciating pain basically right here, just shooting into my head, just whoa. So yesterday I decided not to do a video. Obviously I was in so much pain. It was just, it was interesting because I kept reading things online about exercising your jaw. And I joked with my boyfriend. I'm like, well, I do love to talk, so I thought I'd been exercising my jaw all my life. And there are specific jaw exercises to do, though. And I clench my teeth at night. It's just something that I do. I've looked into it. There's really no rhyme or reason why some people clench their teeth and some don't. Stress, other factors. I had to get an MRI yesterday, so I think there could have been some underlying stress with that. It's totally unrelated to my head or my fibromyalgia. However, when pain sets in, I often go back to just thinking about how I first reacted when I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And actually when that pain first started to increase in my body, I didn't get diagnosed. It happened October of 21, and then I didn't get diagnosed until March of 22. I think so. So that pain, though, just was all throughout my body. The fibromyalgia pain it would run up my neck and my shoulders, down through my arms, my hands, into my legs. So I decided at that time, because I wasn't sober yet, to drink away the pain, if you will. And at the same time, I am intelligent enough to know that alcohol is an inflammatory substance when it goes into our body. So in the short run, it relieved my pain because that those connectors to the brain that say, hey, you're in pain, they didn't connect. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not giving scientific facts here. But at the same time, so that short run, I didn't feel that pain when I was drinking. However, afterwards, not only having, pain from drinking, I then had the pain from my nerve condition. So when I decided to quit drinking and go into rehab last year, that was also a big factor that I knew that I couldn't keep putting this inflammatory substance into my body and think that eating anti-inflammatory foods was going to somehow balance it. That just wasn't going to work. So anytime I get in a situation where a big onset of pain happens, it just kind of takes me back to that time. And there's a lot of reflecting. I'm certainly glad that I don't turn to alcohol as a pain relief. And what's interesting, I'll be honest, the thought is still there. I choose not to, but my brain sometimes is like, hey, remember when we had a drink and that made us feel better? So that, to me, I feel like is totally normal. I may always have that thought. And then I think to myself, I don't want to have that drink because I know one drink is not one drink. And I know that it would upset me. There would be, I would feel shame. I'd feel guilt. I would just also be physically ill. I haven't had alcohol in 10 months. Today is the 20th. It's my 10-month anniversary. Thank you. I feel fantastic. And I get very excited when I hit my, the 20th of every month. So I was thinking about that, how that was my kind of go-to, if you will, pain cure. And then at the same time, I find that I have to listen to my body. I mean, these are all, our body tells us when we're in pain for a reason. And at the same time, like taking ibuprofen because you're in pain is totally okay. Don't abuse it. It can hurt your body. And I feel like there's a big misconception that because it's over the counter or because it's from a pharmaceutical or, pharmacy, that it's not bad for you. It's not a drug. It's absolutely a drug. And it needs to be taken properly. And so I'm on medications for my fibromyalgia. And those I started to really take properly once I got, obviously, in rehab because they gave us our medication. But then in the aftercare, that was kind of the step down where I went to someone to take my medication, but it was up to me. They weren't going to hunt me down. They were going to tell me, hey, it's time to take your meds. And when you take them in the proper timing, the proper dosage, it really can make an impact on your body. I would eventually like to get to the point where I'm not on medication. And I've really been doing some research on acupuncture. The frustrating thing about acupuncture is that it's not covered under any insurance. So that would be out of pocket. But I am looking into that because it also, when it comes to TMJ, that acupuncture is a suggested therapy for that as well. So, and there's just a lot of holistic therapies that are available that I wish were covered under insurance. Massage therapy, reflexology. I feel like even when it comes to physical therapy, a lot of times our insurance companies will only approve 12 weeks. In physical therapy, anytime I've had to do it, I feel like it always inspires me then to go work out on my own, because it's kind of like having a personal coach or a personal trainer. So anyway, back to the pain. I also just want to point out that life happens. I have excruciating pain at times, and I know that I'm not the only one that goes through that. And I know how frustrating that is. And I am very thankful that opiates are not my drug of choice, because my heart goes out to people that have excruciating pain and know that they can't take opiates even as prescribed, because it will lead to a relapse. And sometimes there's just so much pain that you need to take something. And I know that medicinal marijuana is becoming more popular, and I am an advocate for that. I think that there are many, many medical properties to marijuana, and sadly, we just started studying that recently. Years ago, I took an English class in college and actually wrote about medicinal properties of marijuana, comparing it. It was one of those English papers, I forget what it was called. Anyway, I compared cocaine to marijuana, and also the scheduling of the drugs, the history of the drugs, and just kind of the how society views both drugs. So it's very interesting. I learned a lot, and I also think that people take advantage of medical marijuana, but I don't know of anyone that's ever overdosed on marijuana. I've never seen a documentation of it. So, but I'm not here to discuss that or argue it. To each their own. And I'm just here to say that life happens, pain happens, and it's okay to be frustrated when you have pain. And it's okay to I feel like that's a time to talk to someone. Hey, I'm not feeling good. And the physical pain started it. So then what it also can do to me sometimes, physical pain, once that, and physical pain, so yesterday I kept getting just this pulsating pain that was coming, and it would go away. So maybe every 10 minutes it was happening. And in between that, I would start ruminating thoughts. So it's funny because the pain actually does take away the ruminating thoughts, because it just absorbs so much of my concentration, and I'm in pain, this is annoying. But then I would get frustrated because people don't understand chronic pain or even just a sharp jabbing pain in your body, because they're not going through it. So they might not react exactly how I want them to. And with ruminating thoughts, I'll start to think, I'll just start bringing up past stuff. It was me and my boyfriend, and I felt like he wasn't being attentive enough to me, which is silly because he absolutely was. But I was just so frustrated with the pain and annoyed that I let that transpire into my other thoughts. And ruminating thoughts can just spiral. Mine, at least, can. and I can go to what I like to call crazy town really, really quickly, very easily. So, what happened to make me well, not kind of, but to make me get into a process of stopping my ruminating thoughts was first when I went to rehab. I knew I was going to have an 8-day blackout where I couldn't talk to anyone, and I knew I'd only be able to make one phone call a day until like 30 days in, and then 2 phone calls like certain days of the week. So very limited contact with my loved ones. And I had miscounted my 8 days. So my 8th day comes and they're like, you can make a phone call. And I call my boyfriend, who I love dearly. And he didn't know that I was going to be calling him. He thought I'd be calling the next day. And it was from a blocked number. They didn't tell me that. So he didn't answer the phone. So then the very kind RA let me call my mother. She did answer the phone. And I was like, let Josh know it's going to become from a restricted number. And what happened though, throughout this whole, him not answering, I went to crazy town in my mind thinking that he had left me, that he didn't want to be with me anymore because I was in rehab. And that wasn't the case. He loves me very much. He was very proud of me. But because I didn't have that instant, gratification, someone answered the phone right when I called, I didn't have access to my phone all the time. And I was also coming off of drugs and alcohol. So going to crazy town was pretty easy. I did that several times in rehab. And there was also the limitation of not having my phone. Now, I didn't mind not having access to like Facebook and the internet or anything like that. I actually enjoyed that time off from it. And I actually got rid of Facebook whenever I got out of rehab. So then in PHP, I had my phone. But again, the first 8 days, you could only use the house phone. It was limited. And again, there were a few times where I tried to call someone, they didn't answer. And with my boyfriend and my mother, I would just think these crazy thoughts, like they had been in a car accident, that nothing was giving me rhyme or reason to think these thoughts, but I just went there. So I started talking to my therapist about it, and she suggested that whenever that happens, when my thoughts start to get really intense and crazy, and especially when I start creating scenarios that aren't happening, that I need to think about something that I can control. So I would think about, as my thoughts, first I have to recognize like, hey, I'm having really intense thoughts that I'm creating, what ifs, or I'm assuming, which we all know makes an ass out of you and me. Assumptions are not good at all. So what I would do is I would think to myself, like, what's my schedule for tomorrow? What do I need from the grocery store? I mean, I would really go that basic, but it would distract me away from those spiraling crazy thoughts and allow me to focus on something that I had actual control over, that I could do. I would think about maybe a craft I was going to start, or even pick up my book and start reading it. So I really started to practice that while I was in PHP, and it started to get much easier, where a crazy thought would come in my head or a ruminating thought, and I would recognize it immediately and be like, don't have time for this, because I don't have time for that. And I'm just making up stories. It's not healthy to get lost in that spiral, what if. I wanted to think about things that I was in control of. So I would also plan a vacation, and also I would turn it. So that is kind of like, that's not really a what if, but I would turn my thought process into thinking about something positive, like planning a vacation, planning a party. And yes, it hasn't happened, but it was very positive and it made me feel good. So I wasn't attracting negative feelings, negative energy. And so I'm very much aware of that, and I work on that every day. I think that will be a continuous thing that I work on throughout my life. And, a big part of it is also observing. I'm reading a great book that they talk about, rather than saying, it was the way he worded it. It was like, when a negative thought or your monkey mind happens, we say something in our head that's negative, observe it. And I really liked that idea of observing any thought, whether it's good or bad, positive or negative, and because that gives you that pause to sit there, observe the thought, think about what I thought or what I may have said, and then decide if I'm going to go down that road, which I most likely, if it's ruminating or crazy town, I don't need to, and then flip it. Or if it is a positive thought, observe it and then enjoy it and then continue on with more positive thoughts. So I'm encouraged to keep doing this. And this is a part of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT therapy. When I told my therapist about doing this, she was very pleased with me. She's like, you're doing the work, you're working on it. And it always makes me feel better whenever I get myself out of a ruminating thought process, or, going to crazy town, layman's terms. And I'm not saying that I've mastered it by any means. It still happens. And I think there is kind of a natural instinct. I don't even want to say natural instinct, but maybe it's just there's a natural flow of thought because I've been doing it for so long that does happen. The fact that I'm in control of it, that's something I can change about myself. And that goes back into my video on change. And the power that I feel knowing that I can change myself. I can change myself from overthinking, and I feel power in that, and that excites me. And I can only do that when I have a clear mind. I can't do that when I'm drunk or when I'm using, when I'm high, because most often those times I'm just whatever, who cares? I might not even ruminate as much in those times. But that wasn't healthy for my brain. It wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't healthy for my body. It was not healthy for my mental health. It was not healthy at all for my spirituality and the love I have for myself now. And I feel like this process has helped me be more mindful of myself. And it's helping me just, really pay attention to what I do when I'm around people, what I do when I'm by myself. And I'm very happy just to be in this place and to know that I have control over things that I do. I absolutely have control. I have control every day when I decide not to drink or use. That's a big one too, where I'm like, I'm in control of this. This drug or this bottle of alcohol does not have control over me, and I refuse to let it. And that takes time, and that also takes willpower. We have choices that we make every single day. And again, I'll finish with, if you feel like you need to talk to someone, please, please, please reach out to a therapist. There are therapists in your area, and I know when you're in a rural area, it's frustrating, but there's also therapy online. And if you need or have a desire to quit drinking, quit using, and you need to go to rehab, please reach out. And I encourage people to go to rehab. I did. I went to a rehab that was about 5 hours away from where I live. I didn't know anybody there. And I also did a 60-day rehab, which I also encourage. And I encourage aftercare. And these are things that you'll learn about when you get there. So have a great day and stay sober, stay fabulous. And that's all for today. Thanks. Bye.